Centering pass off the skate. Long ahead this goes. Breakaway. Going in. Byro. Scores.
We'll play some hockey, eh? Hockey. We're going to play hockey today.
Yano for it. He'll wrap a shot on a goal. And it's his first goal of the season. Floating out of the air. Wow. Going in. Wow. Shoot.
Welcome to the Hockey Daily Reaction Show. Milan-Cortina. Chris, your side won, so we'll just let you take it away.
Thank you. Yes, I'll bring the energy. I'll bring the energy for us today. Rocking my USA gear. I honestly, Rob, never thought I'd see this day. This is the first gold medal of my lifetime. Team USA beats Canada 2-1 in a miraculous gold medal game. Miraculous, why? Because I didn't think there was any chance after the first period that Team USA was going to win that game. They killed a 5-on-3 and then gave up a goal, got no momentum, and Canada had them on their heels the rest of the way. So I'm like, oh, this is over. There was something in the air. There was something in the air, and that something, whatever it was, got into Connor Hellebuyck, who turned into the greatest goalie since Jim Craig in this thing. And he ends the tournament with a .956 save percentage. Got a little help from Charlie McAvoy, I think, on one of them. Got some help from some errant Canadian shots as well, including some wide open looks. But his stick save on Devon Toews is going to go in the annals of history as one of the biggest moments in USA hockey. And then Jack Hughes wins it in overtime on a dramatic winner after losing a couple of teeth, and then cut maybe one of the best promos I've ever heard from a hockey player after that game. So thrilled for the players, obviously thrilled for what this means for USA hockey and also for hockey in the country. It has been a long 46 years since the Miracle on Ice, and Mike Eruzione was in the building. I think even he's ready to stop, maybe talking about it as much as he's had to. And now for the first, the third gold medal ever at the Olympics, first with NHL players involved. It's a big moment for USA hockey and certainly a lot to celebrate today. And I have to say, I know it's a tough day for you and for anyone in Canada, and it is not lost on me because we've been in that position. I've waited 16 years to not feel that way after a USA-Canada game. But so much to talk about, so many different things. But the thing that I keep coming back to is I don't know how Canada did not cash in on some of the opportunities that they had in the game today, and that's what's probably going to sting most.
Yeah, open nets. Hellebuyck makes one good stick save on one, but the other ones, it was nothing to do with Hellebuyck. It was everything to do with just missing a shot, and you only get so many opportunities throughout the span of a game to capitalize on things. And eventually, when you go to 3-on-3 where the U.S. has a speed advantage, it went poorly for Canada. I think everyone's upset. No one wants to deal with the nonsense associated to losing at the gold medal game, and it's already starting, so people are just frustrated. I don't think anyone's really going to be that upset. It's more of a frustration moment because of how close it was, because of how many opportunities Canada had to be up at one point. They could have easily been up 4-1. But you miss the net. And if you miss the net, you don't get a goal. So we've talked about that the whole tournament. The fact that the United States' goal was a poor look on Canada, the first goal that went in. I wasn't happy with it. The defending there, they could have been more aggressive to break the puck up, but Boldy's able to make his way through. Bittner can only do so much to keep you within the game. And it brings me back to talking about they need to drill the importance of 3-on-3 and playing it smartly. Because you saw, again, it's all puck possession, getting set up the right way. Some teams in the NHL do it, but Team Canada, you can't have a guy wide open like we saw. So overall, just it's a frustration point. You can't be sad or anything. It's just extremely frustrating.
Yeah, completely understood there. I mean, I think that the chances were there. The chances were there, and I think if for a good chunk of that game, USA was on their heels. And when you have a team on their heels, you've got to deliver and capitalize. One of the stats that's going to come out of this game of this tournament is that USA finished the tournament 100% on the PK. Mm-hmm. That includes a 5-on-3 against Canada. That includes a late power play, an abbreviated one on the Sam Bennett, after Sam Bennett high stick and then the Jack Hughes high stick that got him back. That was a very tense moment in the game for Team USA. But the penalty kill came up big, and there were a couple of moments, a couple of breakaway saves, one on Celebrini, one on McDavid, that were big moments on top of the Toews save as well. I also thought, Jack Hughes was getting a lot of ice in that game. And so it was fitting that it ended up being him. Obviously, he took the late penalty that was, an errant stick, but that was maybe hockey karma coming back because it was just basically an errant stick on Sam Bennett that ends up breaking Hughes's teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that was crazy too. But when it comes down to it, the margins in this game were always going to be razor thin, and every tiny thing that needed to go the US's way to win this game, I could not believe the bounces they were getting in this game. There were so many opportunities where it just felt like Canada was going to get it. And I agree. Like, I think we just watched the two best hockey teams in the world go toe to toe for over 60 minutes in a miraculous, kind of just display of the best of our sport. And that, to me, is going to be the lasting impression I take away from this whole thing, is that this was what we've been waiting 12 years for as a hockey fan base. This is what the players have been waiting 12 years for. Those guys left everything on the ice. I am certain, Babs, we are going to get an injury report a mile long after this game for both U.S. and Canada. I think, Thompson was definitely playing through something. Marchand was, probably playing through something. He missed those games early. McKinnon looked like he was playing through. So everybody was banged up in some way. And obviously the big elephant in the room, no Sidney Crosby in this game. How much of a difference did that end up making for Team Canada? Obviously the emotional leader and such a great player in the history of this sport, but not lost on me that him not being in the game is a factor.
Yeah, I think it'll be lost on most people, though, Chris. So credit to you. The overall impact of the game is really interesting to see how the players come back and play in the NHL. We are going to see NHL teams be very upset by certain players who were playing through injuries they shouldn't have been playing through. So we'll see what implications that has for the NHL playoff race as a team like Buffalo tries to turn their season around and potentially even be making the playoffs, which is absurd to really think about. And you have players like Austin Matthews, who is last 3 seasons has been hit by the injury bug. Was he playing 100%? We know Brady isn't playing 100% for sure, because you can see it on his face. And then maybe Hellebuck now has the rabbit in the back pocket now. He's got the rabbit's foot for good luck to be able to play in bigger games when it comes down to the NHL playoffs, as he's shown that he at least can win a singular game when it matters. So that is probably an important impact for him, being able to get some of that confidence there, even though he should have a lot because he has a trophy room that's just full. But it's frustrating that you got to capitalize on some of those chances. McKinnon hitting the side of the net is uncharacteristic of him there. There was a few situations where an extra pass was unnecessary and Canada could have just shot. I was screaming that the whole tournament. And then McDavid finally decides to drive through the middle and shoots in overtime and just falls. I wish I had done that earlier into the game. It did seem like they were forcing stuff at times, but overall the shot differential was almost double, and they were really leaning on. I cannot believe the result. It's shocking. I don't know what the statistics are, but I would assume a team that has that performance probably wins 90% of the time. So this is the 10. Just based on shot volume and opportunity, I would have to think it played out that way. 9 times out of 10, probably the team that has that volume and pressure and opportunity would win. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's only so I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. Everything sucks.
Usually this is a position I've found myself in watching these games. Canada always seems to find a way. I think the Four Nations was one of those times where you're just like, what do you got to do to get a win against these guys? And at times it's really just about, sometimes you need the puck to bounce your way. And I think that was a factor. There was actually a tweet from Stephen Wino from the Associated Press that I retweeted recently, that apparently a spider came down from the ceiling during Team USA's practice yesterday. And one of the locals said, "Oh, in Milan, that is good luck." And so there was the Lucky Looney in 2002. I think we've got the Lucky Spidey now in 2026. Sometimes the hockey gods have to smile upon you. And I feel like that's what happened. And if you go back to the Miracle on Ice too, I mean, now it's 46 years ago. Now there's another gold medal to talk about. But if you go back to that game, similar situation, they were so badly outshot. I mean, the fact that we talk about the miracle kind of in general, but years ago I did a whole thing about the advanced stats of the miracle and how little possession USA had. Sometimes you need a bounce and you need a play, or in Matt Boldy's case, you need an elite individual skill play to get your team on the board with the first shot on goal of the game for Team USA. Still, that one will live in infamy. I know you didn't like the defense on that one, but I also think you got to give Boldy some credit for the amount of skill that it displayed to chip a puck up, get back to it, and somehow have the presence of mind to slip it backhand. Just that goal is going to live in USA hockey history for a long time.
Yeah, guys, and right after the break, I will break into more of what I thought about Team Canada, but we got to tell you about Fortune Tires on FloHockey. Whether driving to the rink or cross country, find a retailer near you at FortuneTireUSA.com, and we'll see you guys in a couple minutes.
Everyone knows that standing still doesn't get you where you want to go. It's all about movement and progression, power, safety, innovation, expertise. On the road, off the road, and down the road. You have to expect more out of yourself, and you should expect more of the company who makes your tires. Getting you more miles, traction, and safety is why we get up in the morning. Let's drive forward. Expect more. Fortune Tires.
All right, we're back after the break. Chris, it's one of those things where we evaluate games based off of opportunities. Canada had a rife amount of opportunities, and shooters usually are able to, put the puck in the net. It didn't happen for Canada in this game, but is there a game similar to this one that you can remember from the Olympics where someone just managed to just fumble almost every opportunity except for one?
Yeah, man, I can't. The McKinnon yawning cage, the Taves, like those are the moments that you're just like, I don't know how it didn't go in. It feels almost supernatural that happened, like as if there was something in the way of the goal. And sometimes that's hockey. The puck bounces in odd ways plenty of times over the course of a game. Sometimes it matters a ton. Sometimes it matters very little. But today, it was just, how did this happen? The 5-on-3 with Canada humming at near 50% on the power play coming into the game, is probably one of those moments where I'm just like, how did that go? I tweeted in all seriousness, the game is about to be tied. There's just no way that power play is going to be held off the score sheet, regardless of how good Team USA's penalty killers were. I was very wrong, gladly so. But in the end, I mean, yeah, I can't think of another time where it's bounce after bounce and it just doesn't go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it reminds me sometimes of the Leafs in the playoffs where they've just been dominating a team and then it just doesn't go their way. It feels like a similar vibe to this game where everyone thought it was possible. They just managed to fumble it, and then overtime happens, and then they fumble it even harder, which is just a Toronto Maple Leafs thing that's been going on all season long. And we see a similar-ish thing we've seen in some of the other games on that. Like the Canadian women was more of an example of losing your man, but I mean, I turned it off so fast after the USA goal that I didn't even get to see the replay because I just couldn't simply stomach that. World Juniors, we've had disappointment and excitement. There's been teams that have blown massive leads. We've seen people crumble in that way, but we necessarily haven't seen like Russia-Finland was a very good example of a game that fell apart. This game was never ever falling apart for Canada. Really, there was about a 5-minute mark where the U.S. had consistent possession, was kind of giving it to them, but then that all just sort of stopped. I don't know if it was because Canada tried to be too perfect on the power play and we're trying to cycle and they just don't know what to do and they're just trying to get that perfect spot instead of just trying to take a shooter's chance. It's confusing at times when you get all the best players in the world together and no one wants to shoot the puck. But if it's not in the Olympics, everyone's saying, give me the puck and screaming at each other because they want to shoot it. So I don't know if that plays a factor. Celebrini with some good chances too. I mean, just overall, there's no excuse making. It's just shots don't go through the net when you have a high danger opportunity like 7 times. You can miss half those and win the game.
Yeah. I mean, it really sometimes it does defy logic. And I think this is why sports is so beautiful and so painful at the same time, is that the game has to happen in such a way that, you know, it just defies explanation. And we can analyze it all we want. In the end, stuff happens. And there's not a lot that anyone can do about it. And so this was one of those kind of destiny feeling kind of moments for the Americans. And sometimes, you know, like we live in such an analytical, cut and dry, black and white kind of, this is how things happen. But that's the beauty of sports, is there's always going to be that gray area where the magic happens. And that is what we saw today.
Yeah, the magic happened. Also some luck involved too, with the referees being scared to call the too many men penalty, which was just blatant. A player who is this too many man, he's the extra guy playing the puck. Shocking that no one wanted to blow the whistle there. That was really the only egregious thing. They made up for the call against Canada where people were going like, hey, should that have been called? Because that happened like 4 times already. Canada still evens out the power play. So I know there's some people that will make the excuse of Canada would have been in a different position given that too many men being called and there wouldn't be the high sticks. But that doesn't really matter in the event of when you had 8 or 9 chances. Like it's just how it goes. I don't know why the referees were too scared to call the penalty, because they were all 4 were watching it happen and going, I don't want to do this, which is why, Chris, we have to get non-biased referees. They have to all be from other countries when we have the Olympics. So we don't have this conjecture. Get 4 Swedes to referee this game so no one can say, oh, well, they're doing this. I can't believe they didn't call it. Like that's probably the most shocking thing I've ever seen. It didn't change the impact of the game, maybe, but how the hell does that happen? How does nobody want to blow their whistle?
Yeah, and too many men is one where the linesman can step in too, right? So you're right. Like there are 4 guys. There was a Finnish linesman, one non-NHL, but if you're that linesman, are you going to make that call?
You're supposed to. That's his job.
Yeah, I mean, you are. But I'm saying if you're the Finnish guy and you've got 3 NHL referees and two referees and 1 linesman, are you going to be the guy that raises your hand on that one?
You're supposed to be. I think
you have to be. You have to be in that situation, but it didn't happen.
No.
And now in the end, you know, it is what it is. I think that to me, like that was a shock. Like there was also a trip that I thought McKinnon got, like where he got tripped and they didn't call it there either. And I do think there was some of that looking back at each other. Are we going to call it? Are we not? Are we going to do it? And then they didn't.
Yeah. No, it's just, it can't have it, Chris. And there's referees, and get them refereeing at the NHL level. Bring them over, and then we can have crews. God forbid, maybe there's an extra European referee in this type of matchup. It just eliminates a nonsensical issue, because people are going to try and make excuses.
Right.
However, this is like an avoidable situation. It is.
It is. Yeah. And I mean, I think they try to balance it. Well, we're going to have one Canadian, and one American referee, and I have definitely seen games between the US and Canada that have been called at other tournaments by European officials that just were they were penalty fests, and there was all sorts of stuff like that. So, it's one of those things where, yeah, I mean, it's an argument to be had, and I'm sure that they'll talk about it, but I don't think it's going to change.
Yeah, because in other sports, you look at it like the judging you have in the Olympics and stuff, and they actually go like,
Yep.
hey, we can't have potential bias, or you can have one person, so then that way they can't sway the deal.
Right.
My impression of the game was the Canadian referee was scared to blow penalties against the United States, and the Canadian referee, or whatever, understand what I mean? They didn't want to call penalties on the opposite side and get called out for something. And they set a standard that was weird. It wasn't like the standard we saw the whole rest of the games. Tom Wilson crushes a guy. If those were two European countries, would he get called? I don't know. It was supposed to be a clean hit, but I think that would have looked a little bit different. Then you see all the stuff after the whistle, players getting punched square in the face. Hey, we're going to let it go. Tom Wilson has to skate over and say, is this the standard? It'd be great if we could just have it consistently all the way through, and also then just remove potential bias from things. Because if Canada wins that game on a power play, the only thing you would have heard was the Canadian refs gave it to Canada. Let's just remove. It's stupid. It is stupid.
Yeah.
Just have them have Swedish referees in the NHL. They can do it. They're really good at international hockey. It just seems like the easiest fix, Chris.
Hey, let's get us on the committee. Let's put us on the committee.
I'll email my buddy at Hockey Canada and let him know my opinion on that one, even though he probably can't sway it. Look, I'm running out of stuff to talk about because I don't want to talk about the game, Chris, because it was so disappointing.
You can just kick it over to me. I'll talk about it all day.
Yeah, Chris, there you go. It's all you. You have 40 seconds.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, hey, we're gonna talk about this one for a long time. Lots to get to. We'll get to more of it here in a little bit. I've got a few thoughts on just what this means, and I'll get to that in the next segment because I've got some thoughts.
All right, and then right after the break, guys, we will give you some further analysis as towards the whole tournament. But first, I'm going to tell you about Fortune Tires on FloHockey, the official tire of the AHL. Find your nearest retailer at FortuneTireUSA.com, and we'll see you guys right after the break.
Everyone knows that standing still doesn't get you where you want to go. It's all about movement and progression, power, safety, innovation, expertise. On the road, off the road, and down the road. You have to expect more out of yourself, and you should expect more of the company who makes your tires. Getting you more miles, traction, and safety is why we get up in the morning. Let's drive forward. Expect more. Fortune Tires.
evaluate the tournament as a whole, the ice, Chris, because we'll do our Fortune Tire ice report. Did you see how bouncy the puck was and how guys were just losing the puck and also losing their footing a lot in this game?
Yeah, the best players in the world, definitely. I'm still stunned the ice held up for the whole tournament the way that it did. We didn't see the number of bounces off the glass like we did in the women's game that we were kind of expecting. But then we did see, just hopping pucks and really on the game-winning goal too. The puck fluttered, and it allowed Hughes to get a little bit of that chip up to Werenski, that set the whole rush up on that game. But in the end, I still think you got to give them a lot of credit. I've heard like the behind the scenes at that is just absolutely, that's the worst part of it all, is not the ice, but everything else.
The concourses are not done at all.
Yeah. Like, things not painted, wires hanging out, like no doors, like all that kind of stuff. And also, the accommodations. The thing is that, the players, I think this tournament was so important to these guys that they were like, we'll play in a parking lot. We will play it on gravel. We'll do whatever you got to do. And luckily we got a great hockey game out of it.
The NHL will not allow any of this to fly the next time around, so there will be very stringent, regardless of any excuse making that can be had. France is going to have everything completely buttoned up. The NHL will not accept this. I've heard from other people with just in terms of the bathroom situation, not great, and also leaving the venue was horrible. People were leaving games early because it took so long to get out from the venue. And the comment I heard was, it seems like they didn't even plan this. So they're going to step in. Gary's already said it.
They may not have.
Gary's already said.
They may not have.
Gary's already said it. So we're hoping that we don't have any of these things. The locker rooms, if you looked at them, I've seen Junior C locker rooms look better than what we saw. It was absurd that they didn't have the stuff completed. I understand it. Well, we were delayed breaking ground. Well, I understand that it doesn't work the way in every other country and things can be slower in other places, but that seems like hey, we're going to work on Saturday and Sunday thing. And I don't think we saw that happen. I think there was far too many 2-hour lunches taken. But hey, the ice was fine. No one got hurt as a result of the ice, unlike Sochi. So I guess it's fine, but people paid a lot of money and they didn't get what they paid for. So
yeah, well, the ice was that, but now I want to talk a little bit about just what this all means, and if you want to like turn your camera off, if you need to like leave the room for a second, just let me cook for a minute here. Cause I understand I've been on the other end of it, so I understand where it is, but I wanted to talk a lot just about what this all means for USA. And it's been 46 years. It was way too long. I thought 2010 was a great chance for them. It didn't happen. I thought 2014 was an even better chance for them, and they didn't even get it. They could not compete with Canada at that tournament. And then we had 8 years with no NHL players. And so USA Hockey has been building this group for years and years. And I thought really the peak years were going to be, and this is true of the McDavid, McKinnons, and all of them, the peak years were going to be kind of the last two Olympics that we just missed. To get it in 2026 with some players from all over across the spectrum of the birth years, across the spectrum of the country, across the spectrum of the NHL and backgrounds of these players, that was meaningful. This is what the National Team Development Program that was formed in 1996 was built to do. I think, they had so many of those players, but in the time that was built, it's not solely on that. It's the growth of the USHL. It's the improvement of U.S. college hockey, and it is the growth of the sport in the United States, where there are more people playing year after year, playing the sport. We've seen it on the women's side. It's one of the fastest growing segments. USA wins. They sweep the gold medals for the first time. But this goes back years and years, and I think of all the different people that have been responsible for building this and for making this what it was. My hat that I'm wearing today, and I might get a little emotional, Jim Johansson. I got a chance to work at USA Hockey. That's where I got one of these. Luckily, it's just doing PR, so I didn't do anything to earn it, but I'm going to wear it today. But Jim Johansson was such a visionary and a leader and a guy that many of the players on this team looked up to, grew up with. He was a big part of their journey. Obviously, we saw Johnny Gaudreau's jersey on the ice. We saw it in the locker room. This was meaningful to them. There's been a lot of history made by USA Hockey in the last decade. Things that they weren't doing. They weren't winning World Juniors. They hadn't won a world championship at the senior level in years and years. The women's program was having trouble getting over the hump at the Olympics. All of those things have kind of solidified. I'm not here to tell you that USA Hockey is ready to take over the world. You look at Canada and you see McDavid and McKinnon and Celebrini on a line together, and USA did not have anything that could match that. And that is still going to be true. But what is also true is that the country is in a better position than it has ever been to win more of these medals, to be more competitive in this environment, and it is going to improve over time. There are a lot of players that are just a little bit young. You know, maybe the next Olympics is going to have 3 Hughes brothers instead of 2. You know, there's a lot of different things that we can see over the course of the next several years as this team grows. But this was a moment that was built for years and years, and it finally paid off. And it's crazy that we have to look at one game to pay it off, but that's where we had been because everything else had kind of happened. The U.S. had a Hart Trophy winner in Patrick Kane and now Connor Hellebuck. They had some of these other things that were elusive, you know, in the past, and now they have gotten there. So this was a great moment for USA Hockey. This was a great moment for hockey in the United States, and I think, you know, this was a moment, and I just want to recognize all the people that built this over the years, guys like Jim Johansson, Art Berglund, Walter Bush, you know, Lou Vero, just many people that, you know, some who are still with us, many who are not. Tim Taylor. I mean, like, there's so many different people that have been a big part of this. And I was really, really lucky when very early in my career to get a chance to be around many of these people. And my thoughts are with a lot of them right now as well, with all the players and certainly the Gaudreau family. Hopefully they're able to enjoy this as much as these guys are enjoying it because they're all a part of it.
Yep, and one of those things that happens as winning results in more people playing. Canada's seen booms every single time that there is an Olympic gold, so that you would expect that USA Hockey would see a similar increase. Also a big win, just for the fact that of the sheer volume of players who are coming from states that typically did not have competitive hockey programs that now are starting to develop them. Austin Matthews obviously being the major focus on that one. Then Matthew Nyes more than likely will be representing Team USA at the following Olympics as he earns his spot off of one of the other, really talented players. Like, I know they were saying that, well, why are these Rangers here? This team sucks. They suck. Why are they here? And they kind of proved their usefulness. Although the face-off margin started to swing, Canada started winning the draws. Wow, that was hard to spit out. I don't know if Crosby being there would have helped with the draw situation, but the USA was winning all of the face-offs early, and it was a result of those two guys from the Rangers. Trocheck had to be out there, and he was just taking a face-off and skating off the ice. So a lot of people were wrong in that sense. People, you could argue that they're wrong about Sullivan as a coach because clearly he can win with another group, although his season in New York has been a disaster. His season with running the team here for the Olympics has been quite good. John Tortorella now adds a gold medal to his trophy case alongside his Stanley Cup ring. So there is some positive that can be drawn to that. I'm trying my best to draw them. But a shocking day of hockey. If you had asked me before the tournament started, I would have said no. I would have said there probably would have been more goals in a game like this. And to have it end in 3-on-3 overtime is frustrating, I think, for a lot of people, too. A lot of people are going, oh, why isn't it 5-on-5? Just let them keep... They're already warring for 3 periods. Let them keep fighting. But the game has to end eventually, and there's things to do. There's an opening ceremony that has to happen. This game can't go 4 overtimes. The reason why they do 3-on-3 overtime is not because of any reason other than the fact that it gets things finished. And that's what happened. You can complain about it all you want, but it's a necessity because... TV has to move on to the next thing. The rink has to get prepared for the next thing that they're doing, and the NHL players have to get home. I don't know how many guys are actually going to go to the closing ceremonies. That's an interesting point of How many people actually do show up to that after this, or how many people are already at home? I would assume a lot. But after the break, guys, we're going to talk about our best players from the tournament. But I have to tell you guys one last time, Fortune Tires, the official tire of the AHL, built for every drive, every season. Find yours at FortuneTireUSA.com, and we'll talk about our Fortune 4 after the break.
Everyone knows that standing still doesn't get you where you want to go. It's all about movement and progression, power, safety, innovation, expertise. On the road, off the road, and down the road. You have to expect more out of yourself, and you should expect more of the company who makes your tires. Getting you more miles, traction, and safety is why we get up in the morning. Let's drive forward. Expect more. Fortune Tires.
All right, we're back, and it's time for our Fortune 4, the players who drove the action on the ice, presented to you by Fortune Tires. Chris, who are your top players from the game?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got to go with Jack Hughes for the game winner. What a game he played. Losing a couple teeth along the way, sacrificing, but then scoring. That was a perfectly placed shot. Just naps. I barely saw it, when it went in. Just an incredible play there. And then for me, the other guy, it's really all about Connor Hellebuyck. USA does not win this game without Connor Hellebuyck. They do not win a gold medal without Connor Hellebuyck. He has a .956 save percentage, highest ever by a U.S. goalie. The save on Devon Taves is going to be a postage stamp maybe here in this country, the way that thing worked out. I don't know if we do that anymore, but either way, it should be.
I'm going to go with Connor McDavid. Even though he was not able to strike the iron in this game, he was a workhorse. But then I also have to go with Cale Makar, who got that goal. I saw that one coming a mile away.
Yes.
Unfortunate result that these two guys playing in this Olympics, we didn't get to see it years previous, because it's so exciting to watch both of those guys play hockey. It's the skating. It's really everything. We kind of got robbed for a couple of years. I would have loved to see some of these older players who actually kind of just completely missed their window get an opportunity. But we've got Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid in 4 years, but all of them will still be in their prime. So that at least we have some solace in that. But it would have been great to see Sidney Crosby out there yet again, because he was still a bit of a kid when he won his gold medal the first time. So yeah, I would have liked to see just a little bit more of that. I think there's a lot of people also who kind of forget how good some of these players were from their time in the NHL because they were on crappy teams and weren't able to win. And some of these guys who are on crappy teams just won at the Olympics. Actually, those New York Rangers guys, they're on a crappy team and they just won at the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, it is crazy to have just gone through that whole experience and for all these players to have gone through it. What a show they put on for us. Like in the end, like that to me is this, if you don't love hockey, you were probably still watching that game. This hockey might not be your sport, but and you were glued and you were dialed and that was everything. And, I know there's a lot of rhetoric and other things and political stuff and whatever, like Canada and the US, we can't exist without each other. We can't exist without each other on the ice. We can't exist without each other in any way. The sport is better when we have these battles like this. And it's all about what's happening between the lines. There's nothing else that really matters. And we had two countries glued to their TV. Sure, they're on opposite sides, but in the end, how many opportunities do we have as a society to have these communal gatherings anymore? Yeah. That's what sports gives you. And that is what we got today. I loved it. I know, even if you're Canadian, I think you can appreciate this moment. It doesn't diminish your status as a hockey country. It doesn't diminish anything. In the end, you need competition. And this is the U.S. saying we're ready to compete.
Chris, I don't need competition. If I could win all the time, no matter what, I would be perfectly fine with that, Chris. I'd be the happiest person of ever. Unfortunately, I'm a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, so I have to experience just the downfall every single year after building it all the way up.
Good news. There's more where that came from.
Yes, well, we'll see. If they make the playoffs now, maybe I'll be a little happier and be able to shake this one off. But it also brings up the fact that Russia was not participating in this tournament, and we don't know if this would have been the gold medal matchup if Russia had have been there with all the star players they have, who have definitely, we're going to see a pile of guys not ever get to play an Olympic game. A really unfortunate sight when you want to see a guy like Kucherov play with Ovi, and it would be awesome if the world didn't have all this nonsense associated to all the things surrounding hockey and we were able just to focus on the sport. That's not how the world works. But Carey Price is another guy that I think I'm going to go, we would have seen another entry of Carey Price's career at the Olympics. Unfortunately, didn't get to see that. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else that's kind of sitting in there that I would have said, hey, they should have gotten a chance at the Olympics or we should have seen them more. But it's overall the emotion that goes into this. It's the pressure. I'm sitting there with my hands just begging for a goal. It's fun, and at the same time, it truly is not an enjoyable experience for me. It matters a lot. I don't know if it necessarily has gotten in the same way as it does in the United States as it does in Canada, but this was the single most important thing that was happening in the entire country. And it's bizarre that one simple sport, once just a game, can actually mean that much. But surely it was the most important thing that happened today. Next to, the lights turned on. Like, we have air to breathe. There's food. And then Team Canada was playing a hockey game. It's pretty crazy to think about.
It is. And it was, and I mean, I know it felt to me like everybody was watching the country. I know that's probably not true, but in the end, this is probably going to be one of the most watched hockey games in the history of the country. This was on live, unlike the Miracle on Ice. That was not on live. That was on tape delay, which is still hilarious to think about. But I just, it's hockey. We love this sport and we want to see it grow. This is going to help it grow. This is going to help it grow on both sides of the border. There were a lot of people inspired by these teams this year.
Yeah, and maybe we'll see it grow in Italy a little bit more with what they were able to get done, even though they didn't win a single game. They kind of went in there and fought for it a bit. And hopefully, you see those Canadian players decide to stay in Italy. That's how we've seen a lot of the countries start to kickstart things, is they have their former NHLer or their former national team guys or the guys that play pro there just stay. And then it starts to build and develop and allows a better coaching system as well. So if we can get Italy kind of propped up there. An interesting part about the Italy system is they don't have their own domestic league really anymore, is their top teams play in other leagues, and then they have their second level Italy too. So they don't even have a full-fledged just, hey, we have an Italy league. They play a couple of games just for the double IHF standing, but they're playing games against teams for Slovenia, Austria, in what would be Italy's top level. So as those countries start to develop a little bit more, we've seen England be able to present themselves a lot better nationally. So they're starting to grow. And then you see other countries like France, who's going to have to figure something out for the Olympics. They struggled mightily at times. Should they be grabbing a bunch of guys from the queue? I mean, they really easily could. It's easy for them to get citizenship too, and they're already over there in their pro league. I would suspect that the French are now starting to seriously evaluate what roster they're going to be able to put together, because they had one singular NHL player and he wasn't able to make a difference for them. So that's the next darling again. I guess will have to be France.
Yeah, we'll see. The clock is ticking. We've got 4 more years to go to wait for this. We've got 2 to the next World Cup of hockey, but it's hard to imagine anything topping the Olympics.
Oh, and Chris, I'm almost certain we're going to see another Four Nations face-off in between there, or the NHL is going to take advantage in some capacity. I know
I hope so.
The World Cup.
Let's get this. Let's do the Super Series. Let's get everybody real injured.
Yeah, I think they're just going to look at it and just go, hey, if we can make the money off of it, we'd rather keep it in our pocket, and that's what they're doing with the World Cup of hockey. But no one wants to watch an all-star game anymore. We've seen that players do not try. It's not cool to try in the all-star game either. They've ruined it completely. It is a flaming piece of garbage, the all-star game for the NHL. No one even watches the skills competition, which used to be like people really wanted to see it. Now it's just kind of hokey and corny. I would suspect very much that they find a way to do something, whether it's just a one-game matchup or a best of 3 in the span of a week. Something like that, I think, will do numbers. Canada versus USA. Hey, we can just have a men's rivalry series. The women's side already has one. We might as well just toss it in there. I know that we don't want to develop constant hate between 2 countries, and that definitely would drive us closer to that playing all the time. But I don't want to see an all-star game now. So, I don't know, Gary, figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out. Let's go. Come on. Let's go. I mean, yeah, Babs, you know what? Whatever we can do to get the best players on the ice in competitive games as much as possible, let's do it. But the scarcity, like the distance kind of makes the heart grow fonder or whatever, or absence makes the heart grow fonder. This one is a little bit sweeter just because of how special you know, it was.
The other idea is you just, instead of the NHL All-Star break, you have a World Juniors break, and then you can make all the best available younger players available to each team, and then we can remove the excuse of, sorry, 7 of our guys are in the NHL. That's why we sucked this year. I would imagine seeing, basically, you'd be seeing a really true U20 tournament. I think it'd be awesome to see a guy like what have happened this year. Celebrini could have stepped off the NHL and stepped into a World Championship scenario, like, you know?
Yeah, unbelievable.
I'm just trying to come up with other ideas because I love the international hockey and the competition.
Thinking that way, and let's do it, and let's get it on FloHockey. I'm sure we can make that happen.
Yeah, no, for sure. Awesome. I love talking about this stuff, Chris. And right after the break, we'll talk about some of the other Olympic moments, because on the women's side, just an unbelievable scene, just super cool to watch.
Everyone knows that standing still doesn't get you where you want to go. It's all about movement and progression, power, safety, innovation, expertise. On the road, off the road, and down the road. You have to expect more out of yourself, and you should expect more of the company who makes your tires. Getting you more miles, traction, and safety is why we get up in the morning. Let's drive forward. Expect more. Fortune Tires.
And we're back, and we talked about the men's side for forever. But the U.S. women end up beating Team Canada in an overtime game off of just a turnover, really. Actually, it's kind of weird that they both kind of happened in the same way, opposite ends of the ice. The United States is able to sweep, which I don't think that has ever happened before, so that's another piece of history there, Chris. But the women's side was competitive. We saw Switzerland play better than years previous. We saw the Finnish play strong at points. We saw Sweden, in the bottom bracket too, starting to figure things out. So hopefully 4 years from now, we see a bit more injection of I want to say the hard hitting aspect of the women's game, because we saw a lot of penalties, but when you have the best against the best, they're going to run into each other. I would love to see them let them hit a little bit more if we can loosen up those international rules, and maybe some of those other countries can, they're catching up. So I think it's time to open it up a little bit more, because going from the P-dub and being allowed to hit somebody versus jumping immediately over to saying, hey, you probably shouldn't do that, I think that's a tough ask at this point as they get really used to it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. I mean, I think 2026 is going to go down as one of, the great Olympic tournaments on both sides. We had both gold medal games go to overtime, both end similarly, in terms of the results. The first U.S. sweep, that is important. But I think you bring up a lot of great points. There were a lot of other teams that were competitive throughout on both the men's and women's side. I mentioned yesterday on our show that it was such a big moment for Sweden to get to the bronze medal game. They ultimately lose in that game. But at the same time, on the women's side, we saw that them kind of come back. And so that was big. Switzerland getting a medal. And then on the men's side, Finland continues to medal in the Olympics with this. They won the bronze yesterday. Slovakia was a great story throughout the tournament. You mentioned Italy and France doing a little bit better than people thought in terms of, not being, laughed out of the building. But in the end, what we got was exactly what we asked for. To the best players to bring their best on the biggest stage in sports and to deliver for fans. And that's what happened. Yep. And so with that in mind, we've got a great runway here to the next Olympics where it's all about building to that now. Yep. I think this was a win for the sport. It was a win for us. It was a win for everyone that was able to watch a game. The sport is richer for what just happened over the last 2 weeks of hockey, regardless of who ended up with the gold medal, which was the USA, by the way, in both sides.
And I think you're going to see an increased participation by the Canadian star players at the World Championships this year. So they're going to want to try and get a lick back, even though the World Championship, you can call it like basically 25% of what it is versus the Olympics in terms of importance. But I think you're going to see guys actively want to participate. We see people who, they get knocked out of the playoffs and like, I'm not sure if I should try and make the jump. I think you'll see them actively go and try and do so. Unfortunately, Connor McDavid is more than likely going to be deep in the playoffs, so he won't be a guy that will be made available. And we have to see what the status of Sidney Crosby is with his injury as well, right? So that is a thing that plays an impact. Will he try and make another run at the World Championships? Because the players like it. They get more off days so they can relax. You can bring the family out. But I think you'll see a very heavy contingent of Canadian players making their way to the World Championships, because there's no way to get this back other than waiting 4 years, but trying to grab a couple. And maybe, just maybe, for my mind's sake, this will put a shock of urgency into the World Junior program for Canada and how we look at developing our junior players and say, hey, like, we need to turn up the heat here. Lots of discussions have been had about that. You've got Shanahan doing the review of junior hockey in Ontario. Hockey Canada is really starting to step up, but everyone's caught up in a large degree. So I think you're just going to see more of a buy-in. But if you're going to ask me, hey, what's something Canada could do just to make things better? It's just the accessibility of hockey. We used to have a bunch of good old farm boys playing, and they were willing to get in there and get rough and tough. And now hockey is so expensive that it's starting to price people out. So I would love to see the sport be more accessible. There's a lot of kids that watch today that go, hey, Dad, can I play hockey? And they have to unfortunately say no, because they don't have 10 racks to drop on something, because the cost is getting out of hand. I would love to see things kind of come back to normal, really stabilize things, because youth sports as a whole, especially in the United States, you look at sports like football and stuff, it's getting out of hand. It's not about the sport, which what today was about. It was about hockey. Things got to get a little bit closer back to what they're actually supposed to be, which is just the sport, not trying to make $1 million off of it.
Right. Well, we're basically to the end of our run here. We've done this show 11 days straight, you and I.
No kidding.
And it has been a lot, but it has been fun. And, you know, as a kid, the Olympics were always the biggest deal to me. So to be able to have this conversation, talk about these great games with each other, you know, have a chance to react in real time. Hopefully you guys that watched enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun for us to put together. We're going to need a lot of sleep to get over this.
Yeah.
But in the end, you know, I obviously thrilled that the U.S. won a couple of games, but to be able to have the Canadian perspective of you, the American perspective of me, I really liked how this was, and I hope everybody at home enjoyed it as well on FloHockey 24/7. Make sure you stick around. We've got a lot more stuff on FloHockey for you to enjoy. All of these players came through leagues that you can find on Flo, so make sure you check us out even after the Olympics are over here.
Yep, and a fun point to mention, Fortune Tires, thank you for presenting our show each and every single episode, FortuneTiresUSA.com. Chris, I think we'll just end it on... Oh, no, there we are. Ended on this picture here. I'm not happy about it, but congratulations to the United States on winning a gold medal at the Olympics, and we'll see you guys later.
Everyone knows that standing still doesn't get you where you want to go. It's all about movement and progression, power, safety, innovation, expertise. On the road, off the road, and down the road. You have to expect more out of yourself, and you should expect more of the company who makes your tires. Getting you more miles, traction, and safety is why we get up in the morning. Let's drive forward. Expect more. Fortune Tires.